It's really funny. Right after I made the video saying that Hollywood sucks, I end up watching a movie that made me cry. And there aren't very many Hollywood productions that do that. The way it happened was I started thinking about Lord of the Rings, and I was writing a critique about about why I felt that Viggo Mortensen, well, or why I felt that Lord of the Rings movie was horrible when I loved the book. I thought, what was the problem? And the problem is that the movie failed to have any well-developed character arcs in the leads. Like, take the Aragorn character, for instance. He experiences a lot of growth in the book, which was not shown in the movie. And I hear that Amazon is making a sequel to Lord of the Rings, and that Viggo Mortensen has been trying to advise them of any future actors about how to do Aragorn. I don't think you should listen to Viggo Mortensen. He didn't really do a good job of portraying Aragorn. He looks the part. He did great in the battle scenes, but he didn't really understand Aragorn's soul. And so I thought, wow, they're making a sequel. Who would be good as Aragorn now? Well, I heard that they were planning on making Aragorn like the main character in a sequel to Lord of the Rings. And I was thinking that's a good idea, because when I read The Lord of the Rings, or actually when I listened to the audio book, I thought Aragorn was one of the most interesting characters, which is the reason I got sort of interested in Viggo Mortensen. Though I got to admit, when Lord of the Rings came out as a movie, I couldn't get into the movie. And I'm trying to analyze my feelings. Is why is it that I couldn't get into this movie? And it's because there were no clearly defined character arcs or any character growth in the movie. The movie was primarily focused on the battle scenes, with everything leading up to the battle scenes, but the characters were not well defined. So it was a screenwriting problem mainly, a writing problem. And because the characters were not well defined, you might say, well, the last movie won a bunch of Academy Awards. I think the last one in the trilogy was the best, but because the writing was, one thing the movies got right was the music. The musicians seemed to understand what it was that made Lord of the Rings shine, which is, Lord of the Rings is a story where the settings are very important in defining who the characters are. And they didn't bring the uniqueness of each setting into the movie and tie that into the character growth. And so as a result, the movies lacked thematic depth. There was lack of, the theme wasn't clearly and deeply drawn out. The characters didn't really grow and change in meaningful ways. And so the movie lacked depth. It was like watching a panorama of interesting costumes and huge battle scenes with great music in the background. But the why question, like, why were the characters involved in this battle? The why question wasn't answered adequately. We didn't really know who these characters were, why it was important for them to be involved in these conflicts, and how it mattered to them as far as growing as a person. Like, and the only way the movie could have made up for that is what they needed to do was show why it was important for Aragorn to be involved in saving the world. Why did this matter to him personally? And they should have gone deeper into his royal background, his backstory, and explored that further and showed that he was probably I would say he was deeply ashamed of the fact that his human family caused the disorder to happen, so that the ring was in existence and it was a threat to the world. And I think he had a lot of shame in regard to that. And that should have been explored. It wasn't explored. The shame that he felt that one of his own family was responsible for the existence of the ring. And I think he spent his whole life trying to make up for that. That should have been the main theme of Lord of the Rings. Then you had Sam and Frodo. And Frodo had an interesting backstory. The backstory to these characters was not brought into the screenwriting. And so the movie stunk for that reason. The writers didn't really deeply think through their characters, what made their characters tick, and the journey that each character was on should have been explored more fully and deeply. And I'm finding this is a common problem, not just in Lord of the Rings, but in just about everything that Hollywood is turning out right now. So back to my main point is I was thinking, I don't really think, first of all, Viggo's too old to be Aragorn. Another thing is he didn't really understand his character. And I thought, so who would be a good actor? So I kind of flipped through it and I thought, you know what? Aragorn was very Christ-like. So whoever played Jesus Christ, maybe somebody like that. And then I found Diogo Morgado. And I thought, oh, he would be perfect as Aragorn. He would be perfect. And then while I was researching on Diogo Morgado, I discovered that I found a movie that he'd been in called Love Finds You in Valentine. And I watched it and I couldn't stop watching it. I thought, this is good. So I've got to make a modification to what I said about Hollywood sucks. Basically, here's what I think is going on in Hollywood. You know, since Angelina Ballerina became the leader of the evil Jesuits in September 2016, and then Loree McBride took her place in 2017, those two have been running Hollywood, and they've ruined it. You know what the biggest problem in Hollywood is? We're not getting any more truthful stories. You know, when you watch something that resonates with you, because you say, this is a truthful story, I can relate to this. You're watching something that's written well or acted well and or both. But we're not getting truthful stories coming out of Hollywood anymore. What we're getting are canned propaganda pieces that don't resonate with us because they don't teach us anything true that we can relate to. And the reason we're not getting truthful stories coming out of Hollywood is because the people running Hollywood are big liars. Loree McBride and her Brent Spiner Cuckosaurus Rex husband, who are basically in charge of Hollywood right now, are the biggest liars on planet Earth. Everything about them from top to bottom is a lie. And they have to maintain their lies to basically maintain their status and their income, which I think is all they care about. So when you've got people running Hollywood that are money-driven, pride-driven, and status-driven, then you're going to turn out productions that are lacking in truth. They're not going to be truthful. The only way to fix this is the people running Hollywood need to be people who are honest with themselves and with their lives, and they are authentic and real and not fakes. So when you got a bunch of fakes running Hollywood, like Loree McBride's running Hollywood right now, that's why I'm not even going to bother to watch the Academy Awards. I haven't watched the Academy Awards or the Emmys for the past couple years because Angelina Ballerina and Loree McBride have been running the show, and they control what makes it in Hollywood right now. And the only thing making it are the shows that promote their propaganda line. And Loree has chosen to align herself with, I would call it the fringe Democratic Party. That's the part of the Democratic Party that's socialist, liberal, and not that those necessarily are bad in and of themselves, but the problem is, I mean, I've watched productions coming out of Hollywood that were liberal and socialist that I enjoyed watching because in spite of the fact they were liberal and socialist, there was a lot of truthfulness coming out of the story that I could relate to. I mean, my personal opinion, I'm more of a centrist. I think both the Republicans and the Dems have a lot of good and bad points on both sides. So the problem with Hollywood is not so much that it's run by liberals, but that it's run by liars. I mean, anybody who's an honest person, they just can't relate to. Um, Goodness, I need more light. The light keeps changing. They can't relate to the lying, and it's like you watch it and you think this means nothing to me. I don't understand what they're trying to say. It's confusing. Liars are always confusing people. So when you got liars running Hollywood, the way to fix Hollywood is, if I was a producer or director in Hollywood, I would absolutely insist that if Loree McBride is in any way directly or indirectly involved with the production, it should be shut down. She doesn't care about truthfulness in anything she does. So anything she produces or that she's indirectly, like Star Trek Discovery is a Loree McBride. They ought to be honest and put in the credits, producer Loree McBride. And that's why it sucks. Star Trek The Next Generation, Gene Roddenberry, whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, he was a truthful, courageous person. And when he was in charge of Star Trek The Next Generation, it was good. And the writing was good. I thought the writing was good. And the writing in Star Trek The Next Generation was the best the first 3 seasons. You had Melinda Snodgrass there. She was a good writer. But when the Jesuits murdered Gene Roddenberry, which I believe they did because they wanted to take over Paramount Studios in order to take over Brent because he was in love with me, that's when Star Trek started going downhill. Sorry, Rick Berman, but you're just not as good as Gene Roddenberry, okay? I hate to say it. You're a little bit of a cuck. Gene Roddenberry was nobody's cuck, and that's why the Jesuits took him out, okay? What we need are courageous producers and directors in Hollywood who refuse to be Loree McBride cucks. And when that happens, then Hollywood's going to start turning out some better productions. You may say, well, Love Finds You in Valentine made it. Yep. And guess what? That was made in 2016, right before Angelina Ballerina came to power, right before Angelina Ballerina started going in and taking over Hollywood. That was made in 2016. It was in production, before Angelina and Loree took over Hollywood. Starting from September 2016 forward, Angelina Ballerina and Loree McBride took over Hollywood, and they will not allow anything to get any press or advertising if it doesn't promote their socialist, liberal. There's nothing wrong, to be honest with you. I know I'm hearing a lot of Republicans cutting down the socialists and the liberals. The problem isn't so much the socialists and the liberals as it is the lying and the treachery and the murder that's going on behind the scenes. So the problem with Hollywood isn't so much that it's liberal, it's because it's dishonest. It's treacherous. You've got a treacherous, lying murderer who is the secret producer behind anything that makes it in Hollywood right now. And she's got to go, okay? And if I was a Hollywood producer, I would say, I would actually put maybe a scan over all of the Hollywood productions. And if you find that your director or producer is taking orders from Loree McBride, you should can that production. This is how you're going to save Hollywood, okay? Loree's trying to make it like it's an argument between liberalism and conservatism. No, it isn't. It's an argument between lies and truth, okay? When truth prevails in Hollywood, Hollywood will be saved. So Diogo Morgado is a truthful actor because he's actually, I believe, a good person. Viggo Mortensen's a big fake. He's been making love to Loree McBride. So Love Finds You, Survive. That is a great movie, and it's given me the ending to my novel, Silver Skies. Get the liars and the murderers out of Hollywood, and then Hollywood will be saved. Until then, you won't catch me watching any Academy Awards.